The great hall of Vorthik Prime buzzed with the voices of 100 different species. Ambassador Kale's scaled hands drummed against the metal table as he spoke about trade problems between his people and the mining colonies. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. The other ambassadors listened with varying degrees of interest. Across the circular chamber, the insect-like representatives of the hive clicked their sharp mandibles. They did not like what Kale was saying about the new shipping routes. Their black eyes reflected the bright lights of the council chamber as they whispered to each other in their clicking language. At the center of it all sat Elder Nara. She was old, even by the standards of her people, the Ethereals. Her body glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed gently like a slow heartbeat. She had been part of the Galactic Council for over 300 years. In that time, she had seen wars begin and end, species rise and fall, and peace treaties signed and broken. Today felt like any other day in the Council. The same arguments, the same problems, the same solutions that never quite worked. Kale was still talking about his trade disputes when young Yuki stood up from her seat. YUKI was from the Crystalline Confederation. Her people were made of living crystal that changed colors based on their emotions. Right now, she was a nervous green color as she cleared her throat to speak. Ambassador Kale, she said in her high musical voice, I think there might be a problem with your proposed shipping route through the Outer Rim territories. Kale's yellow eyes narrowed. What kind of problem? Yuki's crystal body shifted to a more confident blue color. Well, according to the old galactic regulations, some of those areas are marked as protected zones for mythical species. We're not supposed to build there or send ships through there. The hall went completely silent for a moment. Then someone started laughing. It was Commander Ryan from the Reptilian Defense Force. His laugh was like a bark, sharp and loud. Soon. Other council members were laughing too. Mythical species? Ryan said, wiping tears from his large eyes. You mean like the old fairy tales our grandparents used to tell? What's next, Yuki? Should we avoid areas where space dragons might live? More laughter filled the hall. Yuki's crystal body turned red with embarrassment, but she stood her ground. The regulations are still in the official books. They mentioned something called humans and a planet called Earth. The protection zones are marked clearly on the old star maps. Humans! Ambassador Kale slapped the table with his clawed hand. Oh, this is perfect. Tell me, young Yuki, what do these magical humans look like? Do they have wings? Can they breathe in space? Yuki looked through her datapad, her crystal, fingers moving quickly. It says here that they walk on 2 legs, have forward-facing eyes, and breathe oxygen. They're supposed to be very good at adapting to new situations and building technology, even though they don't live very long. The laughter got even louder. Commander Ryan stood up, pretending to look scared. Oh no, creatures that walk on 2 legs and breathe oxygen. How terrifying. And they build technology too? Surely the galaxy is doomed. Even some of the more serious council members were smiling now. The idea seemed ridiculous. In all their years of space travel and exploration, no one had ever found a species that matched the old stories about humans. The stories were just the stories. Made-up tales from the early days of galactic civilization when people didn't know much about the universe. Elder Nara watched the scene with interest. Her ancient eyes held secrets that the younger council members could never imagine. She remembered things from the old days that most people had forgotten. While the others laughed, she thought about the archives deep in the ethereal libraries. She thought about the stories that had been passed down from the first expansion. When their people first began to explore the galaxy, the stories about humans were different from other myths. They were more detailed, more specific. They talked about a blue and green planet with large oceans and white clouds. They described a species that was not the strongest or the fastest, but somehow managed to spread across their entire world and then reach for the stars. According to the old tales, humans were curious about everything. They asked questions that no one else thought to ask. They solved problems in ways that surprised everyone. They worked together even when they disagreed about things. And most importantly, they never gave up, no matter how impossible something seemed, but Elder Nara kept these thoughts to herself. The council had already decided that the human protection zones were nonsense from a more superstitious time. They voted to remove the old regulations and open up the Outer Rim territories for development. After the meeting ended, most of the council members went back to their ships and their homeworlds, still chuckling about the mythical humans. But Fleet Admiral Taiho stayed behind in his office, looking at reports from deep space monitoring stations. Taiho was a practical man. He had fought in 3 different wars and had no patience for fairy tales or old superstitions. But he was also thorough. The monitoring stations at the edge of the galaxy had been picking up strange energy readings for the past few weeks. The readings didn't match any known technology. They weren't like draconium energy weapons or crystalline power cores. They weren't like the bioelectric fields that the Hive used or the plasma drives that the reptilians preferred. These energy signatures were completely unknown. Taiho's assistant, a young officer named Minho, knocked on the door and entered the office. "Admiral, the technicians have finished analyzing those deep space readings you asked about." "What did they find?" Taiho asked, not looking up from his paperwork. "They're not sure, sir. The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases. The readings suggest some kind of advanced propulsion system, but the technology is completely unfamiliar." Taiho finally looked up. "Could it be a new species? Someone we haven't met before?" Minho shrugged. "Maybe, or it could be natural phenomena. Space is full of things we don't understand yet. The readings are coming from way out at the galactic edge, in empty space. Nothing lives out there?" Admiral Taiho nodded and went back to his paperwork. "File the reports in the anomaly database. If the readings continue or get stronger, let me know. Otherwise, we have more important things to worry about." As Minho left the office, Taiho made a note in his personal log. "Unusual energy readings at galactic edge, probably stellar phenomena. Monitor but do not investigate unless readings change significantly." He had no way of knowing that those energy readings were not stellar phenomena at all. Far out at the edge of the galaxy, beyond the reach of normal sensors, ships moved through space using technology that the Galactic Council had never seen before. The ships were sleek and elegant, designed by minds that thought differently about how to travel between the stars. Inside those ships, crews worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for something that would change the galaxy forever. But for now, the Galactic Council continued with their normal business. They argued about trade, routes and mining rights and territorial disputes. They laughed about mythical species and old superstitions. They had no idea that the myths they mocked were about to become very, very real. Elder Nara returned to her quarters on Vorthak Prime, her ancient mind filled with memories and questions. She opened her personal communication device and sent a message to the Ethereal Archives. "Please send me all available information about the first expansion stories. Specifically, anything about the species called humans and the planet called Earth." She had a feeling that the galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place. 3 weeks later, something strange began happening at the edge of the galaxy. The colony worlds in the Outer Rim stopped sending their daily reports to the Galactic Council. At first, nobody noticed. Colony reports were routine and boring. But when Yuki was updating the population databases, she realized that 12 different worlds had gone silent, not destroyed, not attacked, just silent. The monitoring stations still showed that the planets were there. The energy readings from their cities and farms looked normal. Ships still moved around their orbital stations. But they had stopped talking to the rest of the galaxy. Captain Minho was chosen to lead the investigation mission. He was young for a starship captain, but he was smart and careful. His ship, the GCS Explorer, was filled with scientists and diplomats from different species, all trying to figure out what had happened to the silent colonies. Dr. Hana, a brilliant scientist from the Crystalline Confederation, worked day and night analyzing the sensor data from the missing colonies. Her crystal body flickered between different colors as she thought, shifting from blue to purple to green. "It doesn't make sense," she told Captain Minho as they traveled through hyperspace toward the Kepler sector. "There are no signs of battle. No debris fields, no emergency beacons. The colonies are just quiet." Jaewon, the ship's security chief, was a reptilian with dark green scales and sharp yellow eyes. He had fought in the border wars and knew what attacked colonies looked like. "In my experience," he said, "when colonies go quiet like this, it usually means someone very powerful told them to shut up. The question is who and why." The explorer dropped out of hyperspace near Zarian 7, one of the silent colonies. "Captain." Minho expected to find wreckage or signs of invasion. Instead, he found a normal, peaceful colony world. Ships moved between the planet and its space stations. The cities glowed with lights. Everything looked completely ordinary. "Try to contact them," Minho ordered his communications officer. The response came immediately. A cheerful voice from the colony's communication center said, "Hello, GCS Explorer. Welcome to Zarian 7. We've been expecting you. Please dock at Station 3. The governor would like to speak with you." Dr. Hannah's crystal body turned bright orange with surprise. "They've been expecting us?" Captain Minho frowned. "That's unusual. Set course for Station 3. When they docked, Governor Tyke was waiting for them with a big smile on his face. He was a middle-aged man from the Draconian Empire with the typical scales and claws of his people. But something about him seemed different. He looked happy, more relaxed than any colonial governor Minho had ever met. "Captain Minho," Governor Tyke said, shaking hands with all four of his arms. "Welcome, welcome. I apologize for our communication blackout. We've been having the most extraordinary few weeks." "What happened here?" Dr. Hannah asked, her crystal body still glowing orange with curiosity. Governor Tyke's smile got even bigger. "We had visitors, the most amazing visitors you could imagine. They called themselves humans." The word hit the landing party like a physical blow. Jaewon's hand moved automatically to his weapon. Dr. Hannah's crystal body flashed bright red. "Captain." Minho felt his heart start beating faster. "Humans?" Minho said carefully. "Could you describe these visitors?" "Oh yes," Governor Tyke said, gesturing for them to follow him. "Come, I'll show you everything." They were remarkable creatures. They walked on two legs, just like in the old stories. They had forward-facing eyes and hair on top of their heads. They breathed oxygen, just like most of us do. As they walked through the space station, Minho noticed that the colonists all had the same happy, relaxed expression as the governor. They went about their work with smiles on their faces. Children played in the corridors. It was the most peaceful colony Minho had ever seen. What did these humans want? Jaewon asked suspiciously. "That's the strangest part," Governor Tyke said. "They didn't want anything. They just wanted to meet us. They were incredibly polite and friendly. They asked permission before they landed. They brought gifts, amazing technological devices that could translate any language instantly. They shared knowledge about farming and medicine that has already improved life here." Dr. Hannah stopped walking. "They gave you technology?" "Oh yes, wonderful technology. But more than that, they listened to us. They asked about our problems and actually cared about the answers. They helped us solve disputes that had been going on for years. They showed us new ways to think about old problems." Governor Tyke led them to his office where a strange device sat on his desk. It looked like a crystal sphere surrounded by metal rings, but it was made from materials that Dr. Hannah had never seen before. "This is how they communicated with us," Governor Tyke said, touching the device gently. The sphere began to glow with a warm, golden light. Suddenly, a three-dimensional image appeared in the air above it. The image showed a woman with dark hair and kind eyes. She was clearly not from any species the Galactic Council knew about. Her skin was smooth and her features were symmetrical in a way that was both alien and somehow familiar. "This is Commander Suji of the Terran Exploration Fleet," the image said in perfect Galactic Standard language. "We are humans from the planet Earth and we come in peace." Captain Minho's hands began to shake. This was impossible. Humans were. Myths, stories, fairy tales that parents told their children, the hologram continued. We have been observing your galactic civilization for some time now. We have studied your languages, your customs, and your cultures. We believe it is time for us to make formal contact. Dr. Hannah's crystal body was cycling rapidly through different colors: red, blue, green, purple, as her mind tried to process what she was seeing. We understand that our existence may come as a surprise, Commander Suji said with a gentle smile. We know that your people consider us to be mythical, but we are very real, and we are eager to meet with your leaders and discuss how we might work together for the good of all species in the galaxy. The message went on to explain that humans had been quietly making contact with outer rim colonies, learning about galactic society and preparing for this moment. They had advanced technology that they were willing to share. They had solutions to problems that had puzzled galactic scientists for centuries. And most importantly, they wanted to help. We request a formal meeting with the Galactic Council, the hologram concluded. We believe that our species can learn much from each other. We look forward to beginning this new chapter in galactic history. The image faded, leaving Captain Minho and his team standing in stunned silence. Governor Tyke smiled at their shocked expressions. I had the same reaction when I first saw it. But after spending time with them, I can tell you that everything in the old stories is true. They are remarkable people. Clever, kind, and incredibly resourceful. Where are they now? Jaewon asked, his hand still near his weapon. They left 2 days ago, Governor Tyke said. But they said they would return when the Galactic Council was ready to meet with them. They didn't want to pressure anyone or cause panic. They wanted to give us time to process the idea that they're real. Captain Minho activated his communication device with trembling fingers. This is Captain Minho to Galactic Council Command. Priority 1 message. We have confirmed contact with humans. Request immediate orders. The response came back quickly. Message received, Captain. Return to Vorthek Prime immediately. Bring all evidence. As the Explorer prepared to leave Zarian 7, Dr. Hana worked frantically to analyze the human communication device. The technology was unlike anything she had ever seen. It used principles of physics that were completely unknown to galactic science. How is this possible? She muttered to herself, her crystal body flickering with frustrated yellow light. The energy patterns don't match any known technology. It's as if they're using entirely different laws of physics. Jaewon paced the ship's security office, his mind racing with tactical possibilities. If humans were real, and if they had technology this advanced, what did that mean for galactic security? Were they a threat, an opportunity, or something else entirely? Captain Minho sat in his quarters staring at a copy of the human message. Commander Suji's face looked back at him with those kind, intelligent eyes. She seemed so normal, so reasonable. It was hard to believe that she represented a species that was supposed to be a myth. As the Explorer entered hyperspace, heading back to Vorthek Prime, none of them could know that their discovery would change the galaxy forever. The myths were real, the humans existed, and they were coming. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything Elder Nara had seen in her 300 years of service. The great hall buzzed with frightened voices, angry shouts, and nervous whispers. Representatives from every major species had arrived within hours of Captain Minho's report. Elder Nara sat quietly in her usual place, watching the chaos unfold around her. Her ethereal body glowed with a steady blue light, but her ancient mind was working quickly. She had spent the past 3 weeks reading every scrap of information about humans that the archives contained. Now those old stories seemed less like myths and more like historical records. Ambassador Kale stood at the center of the chamber, his scaled fist pounding the podium. This is obviously a trick, he roared. Some species is pretending to be these mythical humans to deceive us. It's the oldest military strategy in the book. Make your enemy think you're something you're not. Several other representatives nodded in agreement. The idea that humans were real was too shocking, too impossible for many to accept. But the technology, Dr. Hana said from her seat in the scientific advisory section. Her crystal body was a nervous green color. I've analyzed the communication device they left behind. The energy patterns are completely unknown. Whoever built this has scientific knowledge that we don't possess. Commander Ryan laughed his barking laugh. So some species has better technology than us. That doesn't make them mythical humans. It just makes them dangerous. Jin, the young representative from the Crystalline Confederation, stood up slowly. His crystal body was glowing with a determined blue light. What if they're telling the truth? What if humans are real and they've been watching us all this time? Then we have been made fools of, Ambassador Kale snarled. If they exist, why? Have they been hiding? Why make contact now? What do they really want? The argument continued for hours. Some council members demanded immediate military action against the imposters. Others wanted to send scientific teams to study the evidence. A few suggested trying to negotiate with whoever was claiming to be human. Fleet Admiral Taiho had been silent through most of the debate, but now he stood up. His uniform was covered with medals from various military campaigns, and when he spoke, the room gradually became quiet. The question of whether these beings are really the mythical humans is less important than the question of what they can do, he said in his deep, steady voice. According to Captain Minho's report, they have technology that is far ahead of ours. They were able to contact multiple colonies without our monitoring stations detecting them. They can translate any language instantly. Their energy signatures don't match anything we know. He paused, letting his words sink in. If they wanted to harm us, they probably could have done it already. The fact that they're asking for a meeting suggests they want to talk, not fight. But we need to be prepared for any possibility. Elder Nara finally spoke, her ancient voice cutting through the nervous chatter. I have been studying the old archives, she said. The stories about humans are different from other myths. They are more detailed, more consistent across different cultures and time periods. They describe not just what humans look like, but how they think and act. She paused, her ethereal form glowing brighter. According to these stories, humans are not just technologically advanced. They are transformative. They change everything they touch, not through force, but through new ways of thinking about old problems. Fairy tales, Ambassador Kale muttered. Perhaps, Elder Nara said calmly. But if they are real, then we are facing something unprecedented. A species that could change the entire nature of our galactic civilization. The debate was interrupted by an urgent message from the deep space monitoring stations. Fleet Admiral Taiho received the report on his personal communicator, and his face went pale as he read it. What is it? Commander Ryan asked. Taiho looked up at the assembled council. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures approaching the outer edge of the galaxy. The readings suggest hundreds of ships, moving at speeds that should be impossible. The council chamber fell completely silent. The energy patterns match the signatures from the human communication device, Taiho continued. Whatever is coming, it's using the same unknown technology. Dr. Hana's crystal body flashed bright red with alarm. Hundreds of ships? That's an invasion fleet. Or a diplomatic mission, Jin said hopefully. Ambassador Kale was already activating his emergency communicator. I'm calling for immediate military mobilization. If these so-called humans want to fight, we'll give them one. Wait, Elder Nara said firmly. Let us not make the mistake of assuming hostile intent. According to their message, they come in peace. Perhaps we should take them at their word. And if you're wrong, Commander Ryan demanded, if this is an invasion disguised as diplomacy, Elder Nara's ancient eyes held steady. Then we will deal with that when it happens. But if we attack first, we may be starting a war that could have been avoided, Fleet Admiral Taiho made the decision. I'm deploying the 7th Battle Fleet to the outer edge of our territory. Admiral Yuna will command. Her orders are to observe and evaluate, not to attack unless attacked first. Admiral Yuna was the most famous military commander in the galaxy. She had won battles that everyone thought were impossible to win. She had never lost a fight, never retreated from an enemy, never shown fear in the face of superior numbers. If anyone could handle first contact with an unknown species, it was her, but even Admiral Yuna felt uncertain as she prepared her fleet for departure. The energy readings were unlike anything she had ever seen. The ships that were approaching moved through space in ways that defied everything she knew about physics and engineering. Dr. Sunho, the chief xenobiologist for the Galactic Council, worked frantically to analyze every detail of the human transmissions. He studied their facial features, their body language, the way they structured their sentences. Everything about them seemed to match the old stories with frightening accuracy. "Look at this," he said to his research team, pointing at a detailed analysis of Commander Suji's holographic image. "The bone structure, the muscle development, the way her eyes move, it all matches the mythical descriptions perfectly. Either someone has created the most elaborate hoax in galactic history, or these really are humans." Meanwhile, Captain Minho had been assigned as the official liaison between the human fleet and Admiral Yuna's battle group. His ship, the Explorer, would be positioned between the two forces when they met. The idea terrified him, but he was honored to be chosen for such an important mission. As Admiral Yuna's fleet moved toward the rendezvous point, every species in the galaxy watched and waited. Some prepared for war, others hoped for peace. All of them knew that they were about to witness something that would change galactic history forever. Elder Nara returned to her private chambers and opened a secure communication channel to the ethereal homeworld. "This is Elder Nara," she said, to the ancient beings who guided her species. "The old stories are coming true. The humans are real and they are coming. We must be ready for whatever happens next." The response came back immediately. "We have felt the disturbance in the cosmic flow," the voice said. "Great changes are coming. The galaxy will not be the same after this day." Elder Nara nodded and closed the communication. She had lived for over 4 centuries, had seen the rise and fall of civilizations, had witnessed wars and peace treaties and everything in between. But she had never felt the kind of anticipation that filled her now. The myths were becoming reality. The impossible was becoming possible. And somewhere out there, moving through space at impossible speeds, a fleet of human ships was about to make first official contact with galactic civilization. The only question was whether that contact would bring peace or war, cooperation or conflict, hope or destruction. Elder Nara had a feeling that the answer would surprise everyone. Admiral Yuna stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the sensor readings that showed the approaching human fleet. For the first time in her long military career, she didn't know what to expect from the enemy, because for the first time in her career, she wasn't sure if they were enemies at all. Admiral Yuna had seen many things in her long military career, but she had never seen anything like the human fleet emerging from what could only be called controlled tiers in space itself. The fabric of reality seemed to ripple and bend, opening doorways that allowed massive ships to step through from somewhere else entirely. Her tactical officer, a young reptilian named Kyung, stared at his instruments with wide eyes. "Admiral, the energy readings are off the scale. Those aren't hyperspace jumps. They're doing something completely different." Admiral Yuno watched through the main viewer as ship after ship appeared through the impossible doorways. They were beautiful in a strange way, smooth and flowing, like liquid metal, with curves that seemed almost organic. There were hundreds of them, ranging from small scout ships to massive vessels that dwarfed even her own flagship. "Count them," she ordered. "Still counting, Admiral," her communications officer replied. "At least 300 ships so far, with more still coming through." Captain Minho's voice came over the communication system from his position between the two fleets. "Admiral Yuna, this is Captain Minho. The human fleet has stopped emerging. One count 427 ships total. They're maintaining position and have made no aggressive moves." Admiral Yuna nodded. "Any attempt to communicate?" "Yes, Admiral. They're requesting permission to send a single ship to meet with. Yes, they say they want to talk." Admiral Yuna looked at her tactical display. Her own fleet consisted of 85 warships, the finest the galaxy had to offer. Against 400 unknown vessels with impossible technology, the numbers were not encouraging. But she had not become the galaxy's greatest military commander by backing down from difficult situations. "Tell them they may send one ship," she said. "But it approaches slowly and it stops when I tell it to stop." The human response came immediately. One of their ships, smaller than most but still elegant in its flowing design, began moving toward the center position where Captain Minho waited. As it moved, Admiral Yuna's sensors tried to analyze its construction and capabilities. "I'm not reading any obvious weapons," her tactical officer reported. "But with technology this advanced, they might not need obvious weapons." The human ship reached Captain Minho's position and stopped. Admiral Yuna watched as Captain Minho's explorer extended a docking tube to connect with the alien vessel. She held her breath, wondering if this was the moment when everything would go wrong. Instead, Captain Minho's voice came over the communication system, sounding amazed rather than afraid. "Admiral, they're requesting permission to come aboard my ship. Their commander wants to meet face to face." "How many of them?" Admiral Yuna asked. "4 individuals, Admiral. They say they're diplomats, not soldiers." Admiral Yuna made her decision. "Permission granted. But Captain Minho, you maintain full security protocols. At the first sign of trouble, you get out of there." "Understood, Admiral." What happened next changed everything Admiral Yuna thought she knew about first contact procedures. Captain Minho described the meeting as it happened, his voice filled with wonder and confusion. "Admiral, they're coming aboard now. The first one is ... She's exactly like the stories described. She walks on 2 legs, has forward-facing eyes, and breathes oxygen. She's wearing some kind of uniform, and she looks friendly." Admiral Yuna listened as Captain Minho described the human delegation. Commander Suji, who looked exactly like her holographic image. Dr. Dongyun, a tall man with kind eyes who seemed to understand everything that was happening around him. Engineer Soman, a young woman who kept looking at the ship's systems with obvious interest. And Security Chief Jiwoo, who moved with the easy confidence of someone who could handle any situation. But the most shocking thing was what happened when they began to talk. "Admiral," Captain Minho said, his voice barely containing his amazement, "Dr. Dongyun is speaking perfect galactic standard. Not just basic communication, perfect, fluent, grammatically correct galactic standard." And when Engineer Solman met Dr. Hana, she started speaking crystalline harmonic speech like she'd been doing it her whole life. Admiral Yuna felt a chill run through her scales. Learning alien languages was difficult even with the best translation technology. For someone to speak multiple alien languages fluently suggested they had been studying galactic civilization. "For a very long time. How long have they been watching us?" she whispered to herself. Commander Suji's voice came over the communication system. Speaking directly to Admiral Yuna, her voice was calm and respectful, but there was no doubt that she was in complete control of the situation. "Admiral Yuna, I am Commander Suji of the Terran Exploration Fleet. I want to thank you for allowing this meeting. I know our arrival must be quite a shock." "You could say that," Admiral Yuna replied carefully. "How long have your people been observing us?" "For about 50 of your standard years," Commander Suji replied honestly. "We discovered your civilization during our own exploration of this galaxy. We've been studying your languages, your cultures, and your history ever since. 50 years. Admiral Yuna's mind reeled. Humans had been watching galactic civilization for 50 years without anyone knowing they existed. "Why reveal yourselves now?" Admiral Yuna asked. "Because we believe it's time," Commander Suji said simply. "We've learned enough about your people to know that you're ready for this contact. And frankly, there are challenges coming that we think we can help with." "What kind of challenges?" There was a pause before Commander Suji answered. "Problems that require new ways of thinking. Issues that can't be solved with the same approaches that created them." "Admiral, may I ask you a question?" "Go ahead." "In your experience, what's the biggest problem facing galactic civilization right now?" Admiral Yuna thought about it. Probably the resource conflicts. Different species fighting over the same mining rights, the same trade routes, the same territory. It seems like every year there's a new border dispute or trade war. Exactly, Commander Suji said. And how do you usually solve these conflicts? Negotiation first, then military action if necessary. But the conflicts keep happening, don't they? You solve one dispute and two more pop up somewhere else. Admiral Yuna had to admit that was true. The galaxy had been dealing with the same basic problems for centuries. What we'd like to suggest, Commander Suji continued, is that maybe the problem isn't the conflicts themselves. Maybe the problem is the way you're thinking about resources and territory and trade. Engineer Summon's voice joined the conversation. Admiral, I've been looking at your ship systems while we've been talking. Your technology is very impressive, but it's also very inefficient. You're using maybe 10% of the energy you generate. With some modifications, we could probably triple your ship's performance while using half the power. Admiral Yuna's tactical officer looked at her with wide eyes. He had been monitoring the conversation and running his own analysis of the human ship. Admiral, he whispered, if they can do that to our ships, imagine what they could do to our industrial systems. They could solve the resource shortage overnight. Dr. Dongyun spoke up. We're not trying to show off or intimidate anyone. We're just trying to demonstrate that there are solutions to problems that seem impossible. New ways of thinking about old challenges. Security Chief Jiwoo added, we know our arrival is frightening to some people. An unknown species with advanced technology could be seen as a threat. But we're not here to conquer or control anyone. We're here because we think we can learn from each other. Admiral Yuna found herself in a situation she had never faced before. These humans had technology that could revolutionize galactic civilization. They claimed to want peaceful cooperation. But they also had a fleet of 400 ships with unknown capabilities. What do you want from us? She asked directly. Commander Suji's answer was simple. A chance to prove that cooperation works better than competition. A chance to show that problems have solutions, even when those solutions seem impossible. And most importantly, a chance to be part of something bigger than any one species can accomplish alone. Captain Minho's voice cut in. Admiral, you need to see this. What is it, Captain? Engineer Soman just did something to our translation system. Suddenly, everyone on my ship can understand everyone else perfectly. Not just basic communication, perfect, nuanced understanding. She made it work better in 5 minutes than our technicians have managed in 5 years. Admiral Yuna stared at her communication console. If the humans could casually improve alien technology in minutes, what else could they do? Commander Suji, she said slowly, I think you need to speak with the Galactic Council. We'd be honored to, Commander Suji replied. Thank you for giving us this chance, Admiral. I think this is going to be the beginning of something wonderful. As Admiral Yuna ended the communication, she realized that everything had changed. The myths were real, the humans existed, and they might just save the galaxy from itself. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Every representative sat in perfect silence as Commander Suji stood at the center of the Great Hall, waiting for Elder Nara to speak. The ancient ethereal's body glowed with a steady, thoughtful blue light as she considered the human request. You wish to be recognized as a sovereign species with full diplomatic rights, Elder Nara said finally. But first you must prove that your people are worthy of such recognition. Commander Suji nodded respectfully. We understand, Elder Nara. What would you have us prove? The trial of essence, Elder Nara replied. 3 challenges that test the core qualities of any species that would join galactic civilization. Technological capability, diplomatic wisdom, and martial prowess. Ambassador Kale leaned forward in his seat, his scaled face showing grim satisfaction. The trial of essence was ancient and difficult. Many species had failed it. If these so-called, humans were frauds, this would expose them. We accept, Commander Suji said without hesitation. The first challenge was technological. Deep in the archives of Vorthok Prime sat the remains of a space station built by the creators, an ancient species that had vanished from the galaxy millions of years ago. Their technology was so advanced that modern scientists could barely understand it, let alone repair it. Dr. Dong-Yoon and Engineer Solman stood before the massive, dark structure in the underground archives. The space station was the size of a small moon, its surface covered in patterns and symbols that hurt the eyes to look at directly. No one has been able to activate this station for over 1,000 years, Dr. Sunho explained to the humans. We don't even understand what it was supposed to do. Engineer Soman walked around the station slowly, her hands held a few inches from its surface. It's beautiful, she said softly. Look at how they integrated the power systems with the structural supports. Every part of it serves multiple functions. Dr. Dong-Yoon was examining the symbols carved into the station's hull. It's not just a space station, he said. It's a library. All of these symbols are storing information. The watching scientists murmured to each other in amazement. No one had ever suggested that the station might be an information storage device. Can you activate it? Dr. Sunho asked. Engineer Soman placed her hands on the station's surface. We're not going to activate it, she said. We're going to ask it to wake up. What happened next amazed everyone in the archives. The station began to glow with soft, warm light. The symbols on its surface started moving, rearranging themselves into new patterns. And then, for the first time in 1,000,000 years, the ancient station spoke. Greetings, it said in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I am the keeper of knowledge. I have been waiting for someone who could understand. But Engineer Soman had done more than just activate the station. Working with Dr. Dong-Yoon, she had improved its systems, making them more efficient and more powerful. The station that had been dark and silent for millennia was now functioning better than it had when the creators first built it. How did you do it? Dr. Sunho asked in amazement. We listened to what it wanted to do, Dr. Dong-Yoon explained. Instead of trying to force it to work our way, we worked with its original design. We just helped it do what it was always meant to do, but better. The second challenge was diplomatic. The Crystalline Confederation and the Reptilian Defense Force had been arguing about mining rights in the Helix Nebula for over 50 years. The dispute had nearly led to war several times, and no amount of negotiation had been able to resolve it. Commander Suji sat in a conference room with representatives from both sides. Jin spoke for the Crystalline Confederation, his crystal body glowing with frustrated orange light. Commander Ryan represented the Reptilian Defense Force, his scales dark with anger. The Helix Nebula belongs to us by right of first discovery, Jin said for the 100th time. Our people found it, surveyed it, and filed the proper claims. Discovery means nothing without the ability to use the resources, Commander Ryan replied. Your people can't survive in that environment. We should be the ones to mine it. Commander Suji listened to both sides for hours, asking careful questions and taking detailed notes. Finally, she spoke. What if you're both thinking about this wrong? She said. Both representatives stared at her. You're arguing about who gets to mine the nebula, Commander Suji continued. But what if the real opportunity isn't mining at all? She activated a holographic display that showed the Helix Nebula in detail. The nebula contains rare crystals that Jin's people need for their technology, but it also contains heavy metals that Ryan's people use for construction. And the environment is perfect for a certain type of research that both of your species have been trying to do for decades. She manipulated the display to show different possibilities. What if, instead of fighting over who gets to strip mine the nebula, you work together to build a joint research station? The Crystalline Confederation could study crystal formation in natural environments. The Reptilian Defense Force could test new materials under extreme conditions. And both of your species could work together on projects that neither could accomplish alone. Jin's crystal body slowly shifted from orange to blue as he considered the idea. A joint research station would give us access to natural crystal samples, without disturbing the nebula's structure. Commander Ryan nodded slowly. And we could test our new alloys under conditions that we can't replicate anywhere else. But more than that, Commander Suji said, you could combine your technologies. Crystalline energy systems with reptilian engineering. You might discover things that neither species could find on their own. By the end of the day, the 50-year dispute had been resolved. Not only had both sides agreed to the joint research station, but they had started planning other cooperative projects. The solution was so elegant that other species began asking, if humans could help with their own disputes. The third challenge was martial. Admiral Yuna herself designed the war game scenario. The humans had to defend a civilian colony against an overwhelming attack by enemy forces. The odds were impossible, 10 enemy ships for every human defender, but what Admiral Yuna saw in the simulation amazed her. The human fleet didn't try to outfight the enemy forces. Instead, they used tactics that no military academy taught. Captain Minho, commanding a mixed force of human and galactic ships, didn't engage the enemy directly. Instead, his forces appeared to retreat, drawing the attackers into carefully prepared positions. But these weren't ambush positions, they were demonstration areas. The human ships used their advanced technology not to destroy the enemy, but to show them something better. They demonstrated how cooperation between different ship types could be more effective than competition. They showed how shared resources could benefit everyone. They proved that working together produced better results than fighting alone. One by one, the attacking ships stopped firing and asked to join the defense force. By the end of the simulation, Captain Minho had converted the entire enemy fleet into allies without destroying a single ship. Admiral Yuna stared at the results in disbelief. In 30 years of military service, I have never seen anything like that, she said. Security Chief Jiwoo smiled. We call it the human way of fighting. We don't defeat enemies, we turn them into friends. Elder Nara had watched all 3 trials with growing amazement. When they were complete, she stood before the Galactic Council to give her judgment. In 3 centuries of service to this council, she said, I have seen many species attempt the trial of essence. Most fail at least one challenge, some fail all 3. But these humans have not simply passed the trials, they have redefined what it means to succeed. Her ethereal form glowed brighter as she continued. They did not just repair ancient technology, they made it work better than ever before. They did not just resolve a diplomatic dispute, they created a framework for permanent cooperation. They did not just win a military engagement, they turned enemies into allies. She paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled representatives. They are not just technologically advanced, they are evolutionarily mature. They solve problems not by imposing their will, but by finding harmony between opposing forces. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The Galactic Council recognized humanity as a sovereign species with full diplomatic rights. As Commander Suji signed the Galactic Accords alongside the other species representatives, she looked up at Elder Nara and smiled. Thank you for giving us this chance, she said. We won't let you down. Elder Nara's ancient eyes sparkled with something that might have been hope. Child, she said softly, I think you're going to change everything. And as the ceremony ended and the representatives began to disperse, everyone in the chamber knew that the galaxy would never be the same again. The humans had passed their trials, but more than that, they had shown everyone a new way of thinking. About old problems, the age of cooperation was about to begin. 6 months after the signing of the Galactic Accords, the galaxy was transforming in ways that no one had imagined possible. Commander Suji, now promoted to Admiral, stood on the bridge of her flagship watching the construction of something unprecedented. In galactic history, the new Galactic Cooperation Station hung in space near Vorthok Prime, a massive structure that brought together the best technology from every species in the Council. Crystalline energy cores powered reptilian engineering frameworks, while draconian metallurgy supported ethereal communication systems. And running through it all was human innovation, finding ways to make everything work together better than anyone had thought possible. The station will be operational in 2 more weeks, Engineer Soman reported to Admiral Suji. All the different technological systems are integrating perfectly. Better than perfectly, actually, the combined systems are producing results that none of the individual technologies could achieve alone. Admiral Suji nodded, but her attention was focused on something even more important than the station. Throughout the galaxy, species that had been enemies for centuries were learning to work together. The human approach, finding ways to make cooperation more beneficial than competition, was spreading from world to world. Dr. Dong-Yoon had established the Galactic Cultural Exchange Program, with offices on every major world. Instead of different species trying to impose their cultures on each other, they were learning to appreciate their differences and find strength in diversity. The hive mind and the ethereals are working together on a new form of communication that combines telepathy with technological enhancement, Dr. Dong-Yoon reported during their weekly briefing. The Draconians and the Crystalline Confederation have joint colonies on 12 different worlds. Even the most isolated species are asking to participate in exchange programs. But the most dramatic change was happening in the military. Admiral Yuna had worked closely with Security Chief Jiwoo to completely reimagine what galactic defense meant. Instead of individual species maintaining separate military forces, they had created the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. It's not an army, Security Chief Jiwoo explained to a gathering of military commanders from across the galaxy. It's a prevention system. We stop conflicts before they start by making cooperation more attractive than competition. Captain Minho had become the first galactic officer to serve permanently aboard a human vessel. His mixed crew of humans and aliens had become a model for integration throughout the fleet. They didn't just work together, they thought together, combining different perspectives to solve problems in ways that no single species could manage alone. The key is not trying to make everyone the same, Captain Minho explained to new mixed crews. The key is learning how to make differences into advantages. The results spoke for themselves. Border disputes that had raged for decades were being resolved through cooperative development projects. Trade wars were ending as species discovered that shared prosperity worked better than competition. Even ancient enemies were finding ways to work together. Elder Nara, now in her final year of service before retirement, watched the changes with amazement and satisfaction. In her personal chambers, she composed her final report to the Ethereal Council. "The humans have done something I thought was impossible," she wrote. "They have changed the fundamental nature of galactic civilization. Not through conquest or force, but through example and innovation. They have shown us that our differences make us stronger, not weaker." She paused in her writing, thinking about everything she had witnessed. They do not just solve problems, they transform the way we think about problems. They do not just adapt to challenges, they turn challenges into opportunities. They are, in every sense of the word, evolutionary catalysts. The proof of her words could be seen everywhere. The ancient creator's space station, now fully operational, had become a center of learning where species shared knowledge freely. The Joint Research Station in the Helix Nebula had made discoveries that were revolutionizing science throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Peacekeeping Force had not fought a single battle, because there were no more battles to fight. But perhaps the most important change was happening in the younger generation. In schools throughout the galaxy, children of different species learned together, played together, and grew up thinking that cooperation was normal. They didn't see differences as reasons for conflict. They saw them as opportunities for creativity. Yuki, the young crystalline representative who had first mentioned the human protection zones, now worked as a liaison between species, helping to coordinate joint projects. Her crystal body glowed with constant excitement as she described the latest developments. "The reptilian colonies are sharing their terraforming technology with the ice worlds," she reported enthusiastically. "The hive mind has developed new food production methods that could end hunger on a dozen different planets. And the humans just keep finding new ways to make everything work better together." Jin, her older colleague, smiled at her enthusiasm. "Do you remember when we used to argue about mining rights and territory disputes?" he asked. Yuki's crystal body flickered with amusement. "It seems so silly now. Why fight over resources when you can create more resources by working together? The conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from Admiral Suji. She was calling for a special session of the Galactic Council, and her message was both exciting and mysterious. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Admiral Suji's hologram said, we have a proposal that we believe will mark the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. Please gather at Vorthek Prime for an emergency session. 2 days later, the council chamber was packed with representatives from every species, all wondering what the humans had in mind now. Admiral Suji stood at the center of the hall, but this time she was not alone. With her stood Captain Minho, Admiral Yuna, Dr. Dong-Yoon, Engineer Somen, and dozens of other beings from different species, all working together on some secret project. 6 months ago, Admiral Suji began, we asked to join your galactic civilization. Today, we want to propose something much more ambitious. She activated a holographic display that showed the entire galaxy with all its inhabited systems glowing like jewels in the darkness. We want to propose the first joint galactic exploration mission, she said. Not just humans exploring, not just one species reaching out to the unknown, but all of us together as one civilization reaching toward the Andromeda Galaxy. The chamber erupted in excited whispers. Intergalactic travel had been a dream for millennia, but the distances were so vast that no one had ever seriously attempted it. The technology exists, Engineer Soman explained, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. By combining human space-folding technology with crystalline energy systems, draconian manufacturing, and ethereal navigation, we can build ships capable of making the journey. Admiral Yuna stepped forward. More than that, we can build a fleet. A mixed fleet, with crews from every species, carrying the best of all our cultures to whatever we find in Andromeda. The debate that followed was passionate but positive. Species that had once argued about territorial boundaries were now discussing how to explore an entire galaxy together. The vote was unanimous. Elder Nara, in her final act as a council member, gave the closing speech. When I first heard about mythical humans, she said, her ancient voice carrying easily through the quiet chamber, I thought they were stories from a more innocent time. Tales of impossible beings who could do impossible things. She paused, her ethereal form glowing brighter than it had in years. I was wrong. They are not impossible. They are inevitable. They represent what any species can become when they choose cooperation over competition, innovation over tradition, hope over fear. She looked directly at Admiral Suji. You have given us the greatest gift possible. You have shown us that we can become better than we are, that the galaxy can become better than it was, that the impossible is just another problem waiting for a solution. The construction of the intergalactic fleet began immediately. Ships designed by every species, built with shared technology, crewed by mixed teams that thought of themselves not as different species working together, but as one people reaching for the stars. Admiral Sugi stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the Galactic Unity, watching the final preparations. Captain Minho served as her second in command, while crew members from dozens of different species worked at stations throughout the bridge. All ships report ready for departure, the communications officer announced. She was a young hive-mind individual who spoke perfect galactic standard with a slight human accent. Engineering reports all systems nominal, called out a reptilian engineer who had learned his trade working alongside Engineer Soman. Navigation has plotted our course to Andromeda, reported an ethereal navigator who used human space folding. Calculations combined with her species' intuitive understanding of cosmic currents, Admiral Suji looked around the bridge at the amazing diversity of beings working together as one crew. A year ago, most of them had never heard of humans. Now they were family, united by shared purpose and common dreams. All ships, she announced over the fleet communication system. This is Admiral Suji. Today we make history. Not as separate species,